Hey everyone! It's been a while since I bought a comic book, especially a Transformer one, since I started with the Transformers. So I saw Daniel Warren's drawings on Instagram and I really liked what he's doing here. I really like the old school sort of style that he has here. So I thought, let me pick this up. And for this video, let me try and ape his style and do a type of old schooly transformery thing. Let's put this a little bit under a microscope, right? As you can see, he has very thick lines. So this is one of the things that I don't like in myself because I think it's a bit too childish. But here it looks fantastic. It really works with this rugged, thick lines. He also has a lot of darks, something that I'm afraid of doing as well. So you can see if he has darker scenes, a lot of the detail disappears in dark, which is very cool. At the same time, he still adds a lot of extras. If we look at the cover as well, there's a lot of scratches and extra stuff, but at the same time he has these nice darks. An extra thing that I noticed is, you can see it a little bit here, so the legs, he doesn't worry about making them rectangular, even though they are. So like at some points you can really see, but many times he just has the outline, and the colorist, which I also want to shout out, Mike Spicer, does the rest. So I want to see if I can get into this sort of direction. And one of the coolest things that I like about both, I think they work very well together, the colorist and Daniel as well. I don't have explosions here right now, but explosions are just so cool. I mean, look at that scene. So this leg is not important, all the detail there is not important. The importance here is an Optimus Prime. This is so cool to see. So Optimus Prime, and then a little bit, I don't know if this was Starscream. Anyways, so yeah, I want to try to do something, but I know here. So this is also something I want to say. Look how cool the fire effects look. So amazing clouds, and you can feel him running through there, and then just the fires whooshing up around him, and the coloring is also very nice. So let's see if I can do anything like this. Okay, so I will do just a couple of warm-up sketches, and I want to draw Skids. Skids is one of the characters that the first Transformers book, well, comic, that I ever bought, I think was number 20 from the old Marvel run of Transformers, and he was on the cover. It wasn't the best, like now in hindsight, it wasn't the best issue, but it was Transformers, and I really enjoyed it. It was giant robots, and as a kid, how would you not like that? So yeah, it got stuck, and I just liked Skids. I don't, now looking at him, not my favorite design, but as a kid, yeah, those things don't really matter that much. It was a Transformers book, and I really liked it. So we are going to do a couple of warm-up sketches. Like I just want to refamiliarize myself a little bit with his shape, with his body, and then see how I can bend him a little bit into an action pose that would maybe fit into this little book. So Skids is based on the Honda City Turbo, which is a very cute little car. I wish we would have more cars like this, but in the comic that I was reading, he looked more like a tiny minivan. So I feel like the artist back in those days. So the penciler was a gentleman named Herb Trimp. Cool name. But yeah, I didn't quite recognize it as this car. I thought it's more like a minivan. But in those days also, like the property came over from Japan. I wouldn't be surprised that they didn't quite know what's supposed to be what. Alright, let's see if this pose will work. Might have to adjust it, attune it a little bit, but for now I think it might work. Mind you, at this point I'm still not trying to necessarily copy the style. I'm just trying for myself to find a pose and something that will work for me first of all to draw, and then we will see how I can adjust the style somehow. Oh yeah, this is also something. So if you look, very old school Optimus, simple, not a lot of mechanical details, but when he's transforming it's much more modern feeling with a whole bunch of circuitry and stuff. In the old school ones you didn't see this. So that's, I think that's also why I like this so much, because here on this side, like if you would isolate this image, it's like, oh, very cool old school drawing, and this is like very modern now. So he perfectly blends these two. I like it very much. But I do like this pose, so I am going to try and stick with it. I am going to use a pencil to do the pre-sketching, and then I am going to try to use maybe a brush pen, but I am not 100% sure about the brush pen, but either way some sort of thicker fine liner. Let's see. I feel like I could have gone a little bit. Yeah. I want him a little bit more tilting forward, and also I can see already that I'm going to smudge, so maybe I'll smudge a little bit less with my glove on. I'm gonna leave that one in, not that. Alright, so here is a rough sketch as I imagine it. And now, next step is to see with the black lines. I'm probably gonna jump back into pencil and do a little bit of detail here and there, but I do want to see what I can do with the black lines and also check it, because I noticed that here I didn't know what to do, because I like to draw quite a bit of technical detail there, but then I checked out what Daniel does, and where do we have something, like you can see that he does showcase a little bit. So from the previous version of the animated versions, here you can see that, okay, there's the jointage. He actually does draw some joints, but then also he hides or just doesn't do things, which is very nice. Alright, now let's start with the thicker lines. Okay, I have the book here for reference. I got my brush pen, my Pentel brush pen, and yeah, let's see how I am going to mess this up. So this is going to be a lot of back and forth and opening stuff, and let's start going upwards, because then I smudge less as well. So technically you are able to have quite a nice of variation between thin and thick lines when you're using this, but I don't have that much experience with this brush pen, just because I like the super thin controlled lines, and whenever I use this I mostly use it for foliage or some sort of organic stuff. So it is a bit scary using it here. Another thing that is a little bit changed in my style is that I never really liked having wobbly lines. I wanted super crisp and clean lines, and as I get older I like wobbly lines more and more. So now I see more value in this book. Okay, a quick break. I want to see how he handles thinner lines in intersections like this before I go in with a thick one. Technically what I could do is do everything with a thin line and then come with this thick line and then do the outlines and just make over it. That would be a much safer approach, but I don't want to be super safe. So for example here, like this is the area that I'm going for, that he does have thicker lines, not as thick as there, for example, but for me this would be also detail that I would do thinner. So look at this, what I'm talking about as well. Here he doesn't draw the line at all. Here it's very dotted. This is relatively thin, but then he has thick lines there. Thick lines here at the arm. So it is very, look at how thick these are compared to something else. Maybe this is also closer to the camera than this part of the leg, but yeah, very interesting. As I said, I might have to come back with a pencil every now and then. In this case, these blasters were not properly drawn out yet, so I have to sort of fix that a little bit. Just give it a little bit of shine. This just doing that might have already stepped a little bit too much away from Mr. Warren's style, but we shall see. The fist, he sticks with the, this is, I might not do this, so he sticks with the G1 sort of, or at least what I've seen in many of the comics, that they have human hands, so they don't have squarish fingers and stuff like that. It's mostly human-like. I am not the biggest fan of that, at least for me doing it. I think it looks good when he does it. Okay, I must say I'm struggling with thick lines. I thought it would be easier just because I do like to add thick lines to many of my outlines of my drawings, but because I am drawing with thick lines from the get-go, that is a bit scary, I must say, because I just feel like I'm losing quite a bit of the control that I would have otherwise. So this I will balance. Clearly this is way too thin, so I will have to do something there with a thicker line, but that not just now. Also here I will have a lot of darkness, so I imagine I'm gonna do half of that there in darkness as well. Just make this whole wheel area black, and hopefully it will work. For that I also need to make a bit of this area here darker and thicken the line there, and then of course now the tech is there. And I feel like if I want to add some cross hatches there, like that, and that should come in there as well. Now I wanted to add it a bit to the leg, but I think I'm going to do it like this, giving it a bit of suggestion there to the leg, and then we can maybe add a couple more there. Like that. I'm not sure if this is working. I feel like now I have to, I went a bit too dark there. Alright, so the head, I'm not good with faces, and obviously Mr. Daniel Warren here is way better with faces. You can see a lot of expression in each and every face here. But yeah, you can, I don't know if you can see these, but these are very nice expressive faces. And let's see, I'll try my best, but I don't really have expectations. So I guess this is the best I can do. So let's just see how far we can get with this. It seems to be turning out better than what I was expecting, which is good, I guess. Surprising myself every now and then. Unless you see mostly my hair, I don't know what you can see. I also did a little bit of an adjustment, so this windshield is supposed to be tilted a bit forward, which it wasn't before, so I fixed that with a pencil. Something unfortunate is happening. For some reason there's much more ink coming out of this than it was before, and it's making it pretty unusable, which I'm not happy about. It's also, as you can see, the ink is spreading much more. I soaked it in a bit of toilet paper to get some of that excess ink off, but it looks to me like the ink is pooling again on the brush. Okay, and then the only thing is left is this door, and then a whole bunch of wear and tear, which I might do with a mix of fine liner and this. Alright, at this point I would erase everything, but I had some bad experiences with erasing ink, even though I waited for this one a long time. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna wait some, first I'm gonna scan this, I'm gonna wait some more, and then I'm gonna erase it, and then I'm gonna scan it again, because I want to do watercoloring on this one, but I also want to have just a version that is not watercolor, just clean. Maybe I wanna do digital painting for it as well. Let's see. Alright, so I have a cerulean blue here, ultramarine blue, I have a simple gray, and then a vermilion red here. A bit too much vermilion red, I'm not going to need that much, but hey. And now I just have to try and stick to the color palette. And I'm going to take a little bit. Clearly I put too much of all of these colors, but I want to make it definitely very wet. Even though this paper is not made for it, as you could see how it soaks up a little bit extra ink, but let us see. What I am going to do is try and work around the edges, so leave some of the edges empty. It is quite wet, which means that I can come in, so I leave that white, see, I leave a white barrier between the two. I try to concentrate the water, make sure that this stays wet. So concentrate the water in those two edges, and now I'm going to mix a little bit of this ultramarine, try to make it a bit more saturated, and then just try to see what happens if I drop a couple of droplets in here. So technically I want to have a nice transition. Usually it would have been smart of me to wait for this area to dry, but I didn't. So now I just have to work and pay more attention to what I'm doing there. Also, not a smart thing, don't begin in the middle. It's smart to start there and then slowly come this way, especially if you have a camera that is pointing at your drawing and you can't just rotate your piece of paper as much as you would like. What you can do also, you can blow on it a bit and let it do its own thing. You might get an interesting effect like that as well. Doesn't always work, but everything is worth a try. So at the moment I am waiting for the blue to dry, which it's almost done with it, but I thought I could as well do the yellow, which is very little. It's just these two lights and those two lights. Technically the headlights I could do yellow as well, why not? So I feel like there's a lot of waste of watercolor because I'm using so little. But yeah, so that's yellow, this is yellow, that's yellow. So because none of the blue, well, this is technically touching the yellow, but I would try and stay very much within the lines here. This is a little bit too red. Can take some water, dissolve that a little bit, and then soak some of the water up with the brush. So yeah, watercolor not easy to control, but once you have some tricks in, it should work nicely. Now I put some gray here. It's quite light. I have some blacks there which I would just repurpose because why not? I will use this gray on the legs. I will try to suggest. Thing is that this black color that I took is, I think, gouache. So gouache is a bit more opaque than watercolor, so I might have shot myself a little bit in the foot here. Let's see where else we have this. I think that's it for the darker gray. Only the wheels that we still need to do a little bit. And then we're sort of done with the dark grays. And then now I can return to my light grays because the guns need to be the light gray. And I switch to the finer or smaller brush just because the detail work here is just a little bit more attention needing. And that's easier to do with this brush. Now watercolor is usually, if you saturate watercolor too much, it's gonna look like a kid's drawing. At least, so let me say it like that in my technique, because I'm not, this is how far I understand watercolor. The lighter you leave it, the more you can work and combine it with more colors or the same shade. But if you go full, like this is a little bit too strong for my taste right now. So one thing that I still have to sort of figure out is the panes of glass, what I'm gonna do with those. So on my reference that I saw, they were sort of gray, but I think it would be cool if you would have a mix of gray that I'm gonna mix here and a little bit of red. Just give it the slightest tinge. Once again, I am trying to not touch the other color. Technically this blue is supposed to be dry by now, but you never know. Especially if the paper is not made for watercolor. Like they say mixed media sketchbook, but you never know. You can see I left the door that is see-through a bit empty because I want to make a mix of the gray and the blue and then fill that in there. That of course will happen once the window gray will dry. Okay, so now while we wait for that, let's not waste time. What we can do is we can return to our blues, and now we can add some more blemishes and mistakes. We can go in and then have a bit of fun with these blemishes. Basically doing the same sort of little blemish game that we had before, but then now with color. Now the only thing that's missing is that little blue there. Oh, I see, we could add some blue there as well. Well, let's do that. But yeah, this is my attempt at aping a little bit Mr. Daniel Warren's art. Yeah, I did not wait enough, it ran a little bit in there, but it's fine. It's gonna be okay. Something that I could do is take some of this brown or gray, mix it a bit with the dark, and just try to create sort of a shadow for our friend here. Hello, welcome to the next day. I let it dry. I wanted to have another fresher look at it with new eyes. I think it somewhat looks like it. Of course, it's still my little fiddly things are in there. I'm a little bit still, face is still too controlled, and I make it a little bit rigid. But I think, in general, I am happy with the outcome. Of course, I could work more on it. I don't know if I will do a digital version of the coloring, but I might try in the future. But either way, this was my approach of trying to ape somebody else's style that I really like. And I think I learned at least to let go of my uphangings with thick lines, because in the end it works. It looks quite okay for the style. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it. As always, clicks for the likes and everything down below. If you want to support me, there is a Patreon link there. But as always, the most important thing is that you folks have a great time, keep on sketching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.